Marvelous. So our two guests here, Marvelous and Lester. So we'll be talking about the demolition in Bernard Lodge. And also we'll be having a conversation about what are the procedures, you know, to deal with persons resisting arrest. And Marvelous is here to address that. And also we have got Lester. So we have got two guests here. Marvelous, you are welcome. Welcome on the platform, sir.
Yes, man. You're hearing me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear, sir. How are you doing?
I'm very good, man. And the gentleman in the green, Mr. JLP himself, the blogging god. No respect. No respect.
Okay, Marvelous. So as I said before, we have two people. Please like and share. Like and share the live. And there's a number ping on the screen that you can use to call in. Okay? WhatsApp number, you can use that number to call in. All right. So Marvelous. We want to start by our discussion about persons resisting arrest. What are the procedure for person resisting arrest? So I'm gonna give you the floor now, and you kind of.
No, but before you jump the gun, man, hold on, man. Set it up properly now. You have set it up properly, right? Yeah. We have seen in recent weeks where the police and the public have been having issues, right? And what we are observing and what the police is saying that persons are resisting arrest. No
resistance slash fighting, because I did something we actually say about.
Right? Now some persons have a different view of it, right? Some persons think that the police is antagonizing or agitating these people. Some persons think that the police should use a different method.
No, Lester, hold on, Lester, hold on. I want you to know what's here on the program. I'm the host now. I have some questions here now. I have a paper here with some questions.
No, what may I say? Well, I have to define, because remember, persons I said police can use a different method. But I have to define why the police insist on using the method that they use. So we are set up now for Marvin, who have experience in that area, to come on board now and jump in and say, why is it so?
Okay. So firstly, let me set the tone. Or make me give a disclaimer. So I'm not an attorney or any sort. I was only privileged to serve as a policeman in Jamaica for about 8 years. And I've been out of it now for, I'd say, over 15 years. So some things may have changed, but I'm going to give you a rundown just from my perspective. And I still believe that it is still the case as well. Now, for a person to be arrested in any way, shape, or form, they have to commit an arrestable offense. So the key word there is arrestable. Not all offenses are arrestable immediately on its occurrence. There are some that you issue a traffic ticket for, right? And there are also those that you could issue a ticket for, or issue a summons. And based on the person being arrested, his actions, it may turn into something much more substantial, where the police may need to then restrain that person's liberty. Now, restraining your liberty is actually what constitutes the arrest. You no longer have a free will to go where you want to go. You're now going to be moving based on the policeman's instruction. So whether he lay hold on you or he instruct or direct you to, as long as you're moving to his or her instruction. And when I say policeman, I'm really using a plural there. This refers to the policewoman as well. But you're moving to the instruction of the law enforcement officer. I changed my mind now from saying police, because you have district constables, you have the resort constables. They all can arrest. So let me just say the law enforcement officer. Now, that said, the things that we're seeing, in my opinion, in recent times of the behaviors and the actions, even with police speaking to or arresting another policeman, who you think that good sense would prevail, or both familiarity with the law would kind of ensure that things happen in an amicable way. You even see those coming out and turning out into some big fracas as well.
Yes.
Now,
Oh, yes.
people are upset, generally, and people are frustrated. Vested with every policeman is what's called discretion. Discretion in this case means that, yes, the offense may be an arrestable offense, but it does not necessarily mean that you effect the arrest immediately. You can warn the individual and return once you have the support, enough support, we call it backup or whatever it is, and you effect an arrest. Now, I want to say to you, though, that much of the incidents that we're seeing, where it would appear as if the policeman or policewoman is overreaching or using excessive force, the law allows for force to be used, and it speaks to reasonable force in order to effect an arrest. So, yes, it could be for a traffic offense, which is a ticketable offense, not necessarily an immediate arrestable offense. However, the individual may fail to identify himself or give a false name. And upon that, he gives a false name and the officer can determine it's a false name. Immediately becomes an arrestable offense. Because right away there, you're trying to deceive. You're trying to evade. So it becomes an arrestable offense. Now, you think that for a seatbelt and a man failed to give his name, and the policeman trying to arrest him, why it needs to become violent. Now, the policeman can always use what is called reasonable force. And reasonable force is really meaning proportionate force based on the resistance to effect the arrest or to take the person into custody. So that force could actually be lethal. Because if the policeman in the performance of his duty becomes fearful for his life, he can use deadly force.
All right, let me just cut it here, Marvin, to interject as to let the conversation be a bit more lively. Are the police allowed to use button and pepper spray pertaining to that reasonable force that you are explaining about?
Of course, Chris. Of course, Street Vibes. It's actually the first. It is actually the first piece of tool that the policeman has to use, because the policeman is not supposed to punch you. The policeman is not supposed to kick you. The policeman is supposed to use the tools that he's issued with. And the tools that he's issued with are initially non-lethal. The baton. We call the baton an extension
I want
of
to hear what Marvelous I say. I want to hear what him I say.
Yeah, we call the baton an extension of the policeman's hand. Right? And he's permitted to use the baton to bring you under control, to subdue you, bring you into compliance, or force you into compliance.
But Marvin, hold on. Be very clear that in the use of the baton, there are certain guidelines in the usage of the baton. There are certain places that you're trained not to hit persons.
Well, let me give some clarifications around that. First, I probably should have said that it is not necessarily the first thing that you use in trying to effect an arrest. It is among your tools. The first thing that you probably would use is to lay hold of the individual and try to possibly put on an handcuff to protect yourself and people around you, etc., etc. Now, if those start to fail, then you resort to other non-lethal method, which would be using the baton. Now, Mr. Bladingard, I want to say this to you, that as we talk about reasonable force, yes, there are some places that you don't necessarily initially use the baton to strike an individual, right? However, as the case may be, it means that the reasonable force that's required is to strike the person in that general area to subdue them or to prevent or to protect your life. Yeah. But anyway, in general, you really don't strike someone in their head. You don't strike someone in their neck area and facial areas, etc., etc. Yeah. You kind of focus on the knees and limbs.
Yeah.
Right? However, buttons, you don't really aim a button when you're in a confrontation. It's very difficult to point and aim and connect.
Moving target.
Yes, in the general. So in short, whenever you're using the baton, yes, you don't strike aim for those areas, but the circumstances may dictate that those are the areas that is going to apply the non-lethal force, assumed non-lethal force, to subdue the individual.
All right. So what have you got to say now about what people are saying? The police are beating adults as if they are children.
Is either they say that, or they say that the policeman kicking and boxing people. It's kind of like which you would want the policeman to be doing. You'd rather the policeman to be kicking and boxing, or you'd rather the policeman to be using a force-issued baton to subdue. Now, mind you, I'm not going to say that the use of the baton in all instances should be the initial approach. I will never say that. It's always going to be conversation and try to instruct and possibly lay hold and lead. First time back in the days, you and I, Blooding God, used to see a policeman drape a man in his back and pants and push him, lead him away.
Yeah.
Right? These days, these young kids not allowing those things to happen. You know, allow police to do them stuff no more. Not to say that the older folks were back in our days were allowing the police, no, but back then, police used to have big and Bigfoot and tall. Those were the criterias to join the police force. You have to be certain height, your hand and your foot big. So usually what used to happen is that the policemen used to tower over the average citizen. And so restricting someone and laying one of them in their pants waist and stuff. Usually the policeman is much bigger and powerful than much of the general population. But these days now, you know, everybody on one accord, I would say, the tiniest of person can join the police force. And so in terms of evaluating body weight and all of them stuff, you find that police are resorting to using the batons, which is a tool that's given to them. Now, I have a different opinion on some of what I see happening in general across Jamaica. And if you allow me to, I can probably state my opinion on some of those matters. Now,
yes, sir, go ahead.
In all instances, I am going to tell you that the policeman is always right in trying to execute his duty. My first assumption will never be that the policeman is wrong. Because I don't think policemen drive around and look for individuals to annoy or to frustrate. Now, something is, in my opinion, in my mind, is always wrong. Now, where you see a policeman, like I saw one the other day where the taximan lift up the policeman and slam him on the ground.
Yes,
no,
yes. I'm glad you're speaking about that one, yes.
I'm going to say this to you. Back in the days when we were kids, I'll go back to the point and say, policemen were big and tall and trapped in. That's not the case these days. And when I look at this little policeman that the taximan pick up and lift up, I will say, boy, back in the days, a taximan could lift up a policeman like that. But anyway, this is what we're faced with. Now, my take on that, Chris, Street Vibes, I'm Blooding God, is that it's not all the time that the police see an offense being committed. He must act immediately. They have a thing where they say, self-preservation is first.
Yeah.
Right? If you observe and take your details, you can always come back. You can always come back. So if you stay put, observe, because you assess the situation and determine whether you alone can handle. Number one, the other thing is that no one policeman is supposed to work, but we understand how full country run. And if you happen to be out there alone and a bike, motorcycle, or whatever it is, like there's nothing in the books that says that you have to act immediately if somebody's life is not in immediate danger. And so sometimes when I see the policeman doing the things that they're doing, I question it. I'm not blaming them to say, boy, you know, they're stupid or stuff like that. Because in the moment, it may seem to them as the best decision. And you know what? Hindsight is 20/20, and I'm benefiting from that. But the short of the matter is, if you assess the situation and you can't handle it alone, you call for backup, you wait for backup, and then you move.
Marvin,
yes.
In the academy, police academy training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it advisable, not a must, but advisable, that you one don't carry out an arrest?
So 15 years, so my experience I'm telling you about is 15 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, I would say. one police is not supposed to work in any instance at all. No one person is supposed to work. So it effectively that would mean then, okay, one person shouldn't be carrying out an arrest. However, one person can carry out an arrest. As I said, the initial.
Let me say, advisable.
No one police is supposed to work, and so on that account, you would probably say then that it's not advisable for one person to take an arrest. So it's not advisable, Blogging God, and maybe it's not specific to say one person shouldn't carry out an arrest. It's kind of like one policeman is not supposed to work.
Yeah, man.
I want you to get back to that situation, Marvin. So that situation where you see the man slamming the policeman in the car. Did you realize that the policeman had pulled his weapon? I don't know if you had seen that.
Chris, Street Vibes, let me say something to you about, you see, just give you a ratchet, I'm all-time police. When you pull your gun, you're supposed to fire your gun. That is my take.
We drink to that.
Yes. When you pull your gun, when you pull your gun, you're supposed to fire your gun. So these things nowadays that you're seeing where policemen pulling their guns and criminals still coming down and attacking the police is because the criminals are seeing the policemen pulling their guns far too many times without somebody lying on the ground.
Yeah.
You understand me? Now, I want to tell you this. In terms of assessing any situation at all, if you can manage, it's always one of those things that you think about. If I pull my gun, will I be able to shoot it? Because you're thinking about, now you're not a criminal now. So you think about, if my shot miss him, is it going to shoot somebody else? Like all of those things come in your mind, you know, Chris. So pulling gun is not a light decision you make. So when you see a man just pulling gun and have it and just brag off with it, you know that, you know, he is contributing to some of the things that we're seeing today, because when you pull your gun, somebody should be laying on the ground.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. I know maybe this situation here is confidential, but maybe you don't have to call no name or anything. Have you ever faced in any one of these situations where you come across any of these challenges or close to these challenges? And how do you resolve this situation here?
Street Vibes. You see, I spent the last 3 years of my policing career in traffic, right? And traffic is the place that you're more likely to see a lot of those situations.
Do you mind saying where you spent your first 5 years?
No, it don't really matter, Chris. I was trained as an operational police. I was trained as an operational police, tactical response, you know, stuff like that. I never really used to do station work much, but I don't wish to stay where.
Okay, all right. So back to where you're saying now. You're saying that you're a traffic police.
Yeah, spent the last 3 years of my career at traffic, and traffic is the place that you're likely to see some of those altercations, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
So to say it was a natural occurrence, more like, you know, with every stop that you make, you expect stuff like that to happen. And if you know me, I was this skinny little dude, so you kind of, anybody would think that they would just walk over. So I use in most instances the element of surprise. The element of surprise. It's not
that surprise.
Yeah. It's not that So I can remember one instance where there's a young man in committing offense, in driving offense, motor vehicle violation offense. And I saw him. I walked up to him and I said to him that, I see you. We'll talk later. Because if I had tried to apprehend him in the era where he was, number one, embarrassment would cause him to act in a fashion like you see a lot of these guys doing today in the street.
Okay. Yes,
right?
yes.
He would have the other people around him to boost him up, or they would help him to try to mob me to some extent. Okay. So I simply said to him, I see you. The time is now 6:50 p.m. XYZ date. I left him alone because he knows that I see him and we all know the time. I went to him yard the next day, take him out in bed, and said to him, sir, I'm ready for you. Anyway, it wasn't a matter for an arrest. So there were some tickets that I had pre-written, and I just issued him in tickets. Issued him tickets. I asked him for necessary documents and stuff. He presented them to me without a problem. Now, if I had confronted him at the time where I saw him, street vibes, I can tell you, you'll be one of them brawl that you see in the streets right now. And there are a lot of incidents. And I want to tell you, Chris, you have some street vibes, you have some experienced policemen, out there, where some of them, something that will see happening today can't happen to them. It goes back to experience. But at the end of the day, experience teaches wisdom. Some of these policemen that you're seeing today, they will either learn from some of the videos that they're seeing, or over time in the training school, they will change their approach in terms of training. Now, I'm going back to say, I'm not going to say that the policemen are wrong in all instances. Their approaches could be different, but anyway, they're seeking to do their jobs. So we have to give them the support because most times the criminals are the offender, they commit an offense.
Marvin, let me bring up an incident. I don't know if you saw this incident. There was a police operation in central Kingston, and there were 2 police units open back. And some gentlemen were detained and placed in the rear of this vehicle.
Yes, sir.
There was a woman being the cheerleader and telling these gentlemen to come out of the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
The gentlemen complied.
And
subsequently, the police stood there looking, very awkward, eggs on their faces, and had to drive off. Now, again, I had a short stint in Marine Police, a whole different operation unit. But what I saw there was a operational breakdown. And as I said, operations like this could have gone through seamlessly if you had a different approach to it, right? First thing you have to have there, so, is crowd control.
Yes.
Right? Because by law, once you carry out a police operation, the crowd is not to be within a certain distance of the point of operation.
That's correct.
And we have seen over and over where citizens, right, are grabbing onto police, right, telling them to load the man and this and that. Now, the mere fact that you touch a policeman,
especially women.
Women are mad, but the mere fact that you touch a police officer whilst in the carrying out of his duty to detain or arrest somebody, you're obstructing justice. The policeman in his
yes,
duty.
Sir. That's
and
true.
Assaulted the police officers are 2 charged up, right there, sir?
Right there, yes, sir.
Now, sometimes I think that it is the ego or maybe overzealousness of police officers in assessing the situation, right? Now, and I can also say it is the pressure of INDECOM. Now, that special incident I spoke about in the central Kingston area, when I saw it, and a friend of mine and I were speaking about it, I said, even when I was a security officer, once we're doing certain things, we'll push back the crowd at least 200 meters, at least. So the crowd now have no chance to come in the area of operation where we are. And the same thing, people will say, you can't leave me with that. No, when me I swing my baton, I may get order say, to move. If you don't move, and you get licked, you can't blame because guess what? I carry out my duty, right? I'm get a lawful command that say, step back, right? I'm explain to you in clear, precise language, right? I'm ask you and get a command in a firm voice to step back. I'm going to swing my button and I move towards it and I push you out. Remember, team, we are not seeing the police doing this. And like even when the taximan in I think a half a tree, where the two of them are struggling with the man, right? That is also an issue because of those two of them. And persons were very close to the scene of operation. As you think, Marvin.
So do you think police should actually be charging these people? Marvelous.
Well, hold on. I want to say something to you in that regard. I want to go back to Blackingard point that he made there. It's a good point. And the society, the Jamaican society today is one that thrive on lawlessness. People are indisciplined. There's no respect for authority in Jamaica today. And I'm going to say that is what's contributing to some of the issues that we're seeing right now.
Cheers on that. Cheers on that. Cheers on that.
Yeah.
Cheers on that.
No,
yeah,
no.
Sure.
The thing about it is that the policemen cannot establish a cordon or perimeter around any crime scene to prevent people from venturing these days, because everybody wants to get into the view of a cell phone camera or something so that they can go repost it on Facebook or on YouTube. Everybody looking at us. Everybody trying to find a way to get on the headline. Everybody trying to find a way to be on the limelight. So some of these people that you see even moving up towards the police and behaving boisterously, it's not necessarily because they are destined to try to free the person being arrested, It's kind of like they just want up on the camera. They want to go up on YouTube. They want some content to go post on YouTube. Most of that what we're seeing right now. And I want to tell you that we see a lot of vloggers on Facebook and YouTube currently today actively involved in some demonstrations and stuff like that. They are kind of like pushing the people and jeering them on. And Blackingard mentioned the Indicom there, Chris. Street Vibes.
Yeah.
Indicom is an injustice to Jamaica. Indicom came out of the pressures of the human rights groups in regard to speaking to the need to have an independent arm investigating the police. No, nothing is wrong with having an investigating arm investigating police. Every country have that. But this arm, this Indico arm that we have in Jamaica is one of such that it is heavy-handed in that not even the commissioner of police cannot instruct them accordingly. Say, for example, a crime scene and they arrive on the scene, the police has to let them through to go in and do their investigation. Not even the commissioner of police can tell them to step back. Now, if you give that level of authority to a group that is not the core law enforcement arm, right there and then, you're technically downgrading the core law enforcement arm, and everybody wants to go complain to Indicom. Nobody wants to go complain to the police. Nobody wants to bring the information to the police. They rather go bring the information to Indicom because that's how it is structured. And this is not no one government. This is successive government have taken on the baton and they just continue to promulgate the same situation. It needs to stop because here what happened, Chris? Street Vibes. In every country, you have injustices, right? And there's no other country like the no country with most injustices like the United States. But nobody is focused on injustices there. The human rights group I'm referring to they're not focused on the injustices there. They're focused on injustices in smaller countries like Jamaica that they can bully. And this is how Indicom come about. Policemen are afraid to do their work, Policemen are generally afraid, and that's why it's so.
I believe that.
Policemen are afraid. Policemen right now, I can tell you, most of the policemen are trying to just do as much as they can do to stay on the payroll.
Yep.
Or until better come.
Yep.
So what would be your advice to those policemen, Marvin? I mean, that's
my advice.
Yeah.
I would encourage every one of them to leave.
No,
and
you
a
can't say
criminal.
that, man. You
No,
can't say that with
Chris,
a big black
Chris,
gun. With black gun.
Chris,
You
Chris.
can't say that with a
It's
big.
it's
No,
it,
no,
it,
no, no, no.
it's
Marvelous,
nothing political
I'm
either.
sorry, that's on the program.
You ask the man a question, the man answer you.
It's nothing political either, no. Because as I said to you, the situation span across successive governments. I would encourage every policeman to leave and allow criminals to police themselves.
So, Black gun, what you have to say about that?
All right. I won't go so far as Marvin, but that's Marvin's opinion and view, right? What I think is that Indicom need to have a restructure similar to internal affairs in America, right? 1. 2, the police force needs a whole operational restructuring. Restructure the police force like a corporate entity, right? Where the Minister of Security can fire the police commissioner, right? And him can fire anybody below that. The police commissioner can fire anybody below him. Presently, the police commissioner cannot fire nobody. At the Police Services Commission, he must recommend, right? And with due amount of reports, right? And then we convene, and then we say, all right, we're gonna let go the policeman, yeah. But the commissioner can't just come out and say, you know no work.
Just one correction there. The police commissioner can fire ranks below inspector, but not above inspector.
But that makes sense. If you're a CEO, him supposed to fire anybody.
Yeah.
You understand me? Now, the thing is, you have to have a particular structure in place where protocols are followed, right? What we see now in the police force is like people are doing the bare minimum to keep them work, right? So a man not going out them way anymore to apprehend or to fight crime or whatever. Case in point, there was a police involved in a shooting, right? And them come under attack, you know. Shots, the shots were returned and they kill the perpetrator and whatever. The next day, there's a one witness. The next day, Indicom drive up on the man, you know. Migla downtown, you know. Right? Disarm the police, you know. Right? Take fingerprints, swab and all kind of something, you know. And how it was done in such a manner where it's like you're embarrassing the police.
Yeah.
You know? And then how the persons at Indicom operate is like they are there solely to lock up the police and soldier, them cover soldier and correctional officers also, right? But how them operate is like they're against police officers. You should be a body where if a report is made or something happens, you're there to see what happened. What happened? Not that you're trying to get the police officer.
Yeah, and to formulate justice where applicable.
Exactly. And that's how the police, the Indicom is seen that they are there to get the police officer.
So basically, you're saying that Indicom demoralize the police.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
But Marvelous, I don't know. What would be your advice, Marvelous, to the general public when being stopped, whether by a traffic offense or stop at search or anything? What would be your advice to the public if they have any form of disagreement with the police carrying out their duties? Do you think that they should fight the law at the street side like what they are doing?
No, that can't be the answer, Street Vibes. That can't be the answer. But the people, Chris, it's the issue that we're experiencing in Jamaica right now, you know, is the society and culture needs to change. This culture needs to change. It's a culture we see right now that stepped in. that is taking over, that is kind of responsible for the behaviors that we see today. And until that culture is changed, it going to get better, because if you think about even criminals right now, the gunman them, most of the gunman them are some little boy knockers, street vibes, right? The big respectable policemen, them operate different from the young policemen coming out of training school. Like the entire society is thinking in a different way. So just as you see criminals them excited and hot-headed, you have some of our younger people that are excited and hot-headed that are not criminals too. They're not criminals, but they're excited and hot-headed just the same because of the culture that we kind of have these days. Now you have some long-time bad man. They don't want to see no young boy around, bad man around them because they can't trust them. And the boy, them are criminal enough.
All right, I'm gonna put Mr. Blogging God now at heads by this question here. So I want you first, Marvelous, to tell me, what do you think about the government amnesty with guns?
Yeah, great vibes. I've always been against amnesty, and maybe I'm not going to satisfy your desire for a little bit of excitement right now by falling top to it. But listen what I'm saying. No, listen what I'm saying. I'm always against amnesties. I'm always against it because I feel like if you have a gun, you need to be punished. I'm also against where you have communities signing peace treaty in Jamaica, where you have communities that them signing a peace treaty. No way. Those things are not supposed to be tolerated. They're not supposed to be encouraged. The police should go find all guns. I don't need to wait for you to come give me a gun. However, if they take 2 or 3 guns off the street, maybe it's a success. So I'm not going to knock it, but I'm against it.
All right, your turn now, Mr. Blogging God.
You see, I am glad that Marvin admittedly said that he's an old-time police officer, you know? So his ways of thinking may not necessarily be as evolved as it should be, you know? But we do appreciate that he has a view. But my view is...
Big up yourself, Yankee Bless. Yeah, man.
My view is we have to use every available tool in the tool shed to get these guns, to let the country feel safer. So if amnesty is one of the apparatus that we can use to say, hey, I have $1 million phone, you know, if you bring in an AK, you understand me? We have a $70,000 or $100,000 if you bring in a handgun, you know? And if this is successful, we will see guns coming in, right? But also, what I think the police and the government need to do is collaboratively think of how they can prevent, how they can change the thirst, the desire for these young men wanting high-powered weapons. That is more important than the amnesty, right? But also, remember, you know, the amnesty money don't only come from the coffers of the government, it comes from the business sector also. So the business sector have a direct interest in seeing that the gun and ammunition, you know, is off the streets. But it is a crime-fighting method. No, hold on.
Okay.
With the amnesty, what I would want to see also, along with the amnesty, right, is deep investigation. Deep investigation.
Something I want to play. One second, Marvelous. I want to play this here, right?
Pause a little. Street vibes. One sec, street vibes. One sec. I want to say something.
Go ahead, Marvelous.
It makes no sense for the business community to contribute to amnesty, to the funding of amnesty, and then be in the same breath paying extortion money to criminals. It makes no sense. I just want to say that.
All right, listen to this.
Immediately there are those who will scoff at the amnesty. Which bad man is going to go give up them guns? Well, you know, I don't want you to give it up. I want to catch you with it.
Radam!
So, So, Marvelous, what do you have to say about that with the Prime Minister?
Look, street vibes, I don't believe in amnesty. I said it already. I want to catch you with the guns, definitely. Because, hey, if you make a 250,000 off handing over a gun, you know what that do? Remember now you have the gun for the criminal intent, criminal issues, matters. You're going to get another gun because I don't like say you retire from gunmanship. One gun hold, and you see how you can get some money off it, you give it up. You're not give up your Chrome 9. You're not give up your gold gun.
All right.
None of them now do that.
We're gonna wrap up now on this topic because we have another burning topic we have to discuss, right?
Yes,
so,
sir.
I'm gonna give who want to go first in their last words on this topic here. Close off with this topic.
I'll go first and just closing off on it. Now, going back to the arresting and the indiscipline and the struggles that you see the policeman facing out there on the streets. The struggle for the policeman is real. But I want to also recognize that the struggle for the average citizen is real as well. From time immemorial, you find, and most of this thing we see now is about taximan and busman for the most part. From time immemorial, taximen, busmen they felt burdened by the police's pressures on them. And I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of people, a lot of mad people we have walking around in clean clothes. So when the policeman move in on some of these people to effect an arrest or to execute to carry out the rules of the road traffic act, etc., enforce it. It causes frustration on both sides. And I realize that until the economics of Jamaica starts to change, it's probably going to continue to, the behavior is going to continue to deteriorate because people hungry. And when we say people hungry, I mean the average citizen hungry and the police they're hungry too. So I think the solution lies with fixing the economic condition in the country, and then from there to see how we best we can effect further changes. That's my last.
Let me piggyback on that. The problem start where the police force was created to oppress one set of citizens and protect one set of citizens. That's where it starts from, you know. And we have seen that over the years where there's a particular demographic of people where the police force have oppressed and a particular demographic where they leave alone. What is happening more and more is that technology is evolving, times are evolving, people are getting more aware of that, hey, we have certain powers, we have certain rights, and persons are pushing back. Persons are also frustrated, as well, Marvin said, right? Persons are frustrated. Just like how the public is frustrated, the police force is frustrated also because they want better compensation, they want better tools to work with, they want better environment, they want their voice to be heard also, right? And when you look at the public now, so the public feels the same thing with two different dynamics, and the police force is there as a buffer, right, from to the public to stop them from being lawless. And someone look at the actions that they are carrying out as hustling, survival, and the police boy come try to stop that. So there's always going to be a tussle, a spot. There's always going to be some type of conflict between the public and police. There's nothing we can do apart from educating the population, like literally educating the population and bring them up to a higher standard in order to prevent that. Once we have the subpar education we have, once we have the broken society, broken communities, broken families, we are going to have these conflicts. That's how the society is set up.
All right. What I have to say about this whole thing is that, you know, for me, it's sort of disturbing, and I can say I see it happening mostly with, you know, on traffic offenses, you know, and it's alarming for me because I was a person in the street, and I've never had the I spend the average of my entire life I spend on the road, right? And I've never had these altercations or these sort of, discoursement with police. So I would advise, citizens anywhere at all going in the world, adhere to the rules and the laws and the instruction of the police. If you think it's unreasonable or you think it's unjust, you will have your say.
Yeah.
But you cannot fight law on the street side. You are going to lose. And that's what I have to say, Can't fight law street side, All right. So I'm gonna read a comment here. So I have a comment here saying, unfortunately, your analogy are outdated, Marvin. At the end of the day, if these hypocritical, inhumane politicians don't correct the economical issues in Jamaica, it's gonna get worse.
I think that's what I said. I think that's exactly what I said.
Yeah. So that's our take on that. So okay. So people, we are gonna close on this subject.
Hold on. May appreciate Mr. Atkins or Miss Atkins. I don't know.
Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Atkins, I appreciate the comment. There's a falsehood that poverty correlates to crime, and that's not true, right? So improving the economic situation don't mean crime are gonna get less. No, we have a social problem. Social problem. We have seen where criminals are killed and the amount of money where them have in their possession, right? So it is not, and they're in the process of committing crimes, right? So it is not, it's changing the economic situation without changing the mental situation, right? Is zero. You still have crimes.
I also want to add that I do believe God sometimes can't get along on the same topic and terms when it comes on to politics. I am going to agree to say poverty is not necessarily a contributor to crime. And I want to just state a couple of examples that people can look into. There are some tribes in Africa that are poor. I say poor, I mean dirt poor, but their villages are crime-free. And I say Africa, I mean, I could stay to other places too, but we're black and we're African, so we kind of, from African descent, so we kind of can relate to Africa to some level. And when we talk about poverty and what the media show us of poverty in Africa, it's Africa they kind of really put our minds to. But I'm going to say that there are poor communities in Africa that are crime-free. Not to say that there are not communities that are crime-ridden, but I'm just going back to speaking of poverty. I don't believe poverty is responsible for crime.
Marvin, there are enough of Africa. There are communities right here in Jamaica who are very, very poor, and there's no crime there.
Yeah.
None. When somebody dead, are all in all.
So Mr. Atkins, Yankee is saying that who endorse crime. Yankee, Mr. Atkins, none of us here is endorsing crime. We were actually having a discussion about.
No, well, let me answer him. Jamaica endorse crime. Jamaica. We are a country of blight. So when you look on a man and say, yo, you're not a link over there, so you are not wanting to go through the proper channels. That is a crime. You understand me? But because it benefits we don't see it as a crime. Right? When we offer a policeman a bribe, or a policeman say, what you can do for yourself, and because we want to get it a $10,500 ticket, we give him $2,000 or $3,000. That is a crime. We are aiding and abetting crime. You understand me? When the businessman, as Marvin said earlier, right, don't have trust in the police force, but pays the extortionists, right, and they done them for protection, right? The extortion use the money there, and buy and further in criminal enterprise, right? You have teachers doctors, lawyers, accountants who are working on behalf of very, very, very big gangs in Jamaica. So don't put it at the foot of politicians. Jamaicans go outside of any prison in Jamaica. Any prison. The gender that is there most is women. These are hardened criminals and they are supported and loved and nurtured by women. So Jamaica endorses crime. You can't point on one area, boss. Right? When a teacher work at our school and she teach the supplies at the school for carry home to make her do the SBA. Right? When you work at the ministry and you photocopy and download things from the ministry paper and carry on for your picnic, them think that crime too. Because you're not supposed to do it because you take the company product without asking permission. So Jamaica is a country that support crime on all levels. Regardless of how you use the word hustling, no make it no better. And this is a segue into the next topic where more street vibes push on.
All right, so we'll close this topic here now, people. We all have our say on it. So we are going to move on now to the next